Hi everyone, welcome to your week 2 video. Last week's video briefly discussed course level design. Instructional design takes on a course level focus, so if you remember, a course is not a lesson or a unit. A course is like a curriculum that takes on a series of objectives that come together to achieve the instructional goal. A unit or a lesson is a plan for achieving one or more objectives. A unit or a lesson is likely one of many that helps learners achieve a course's instructional goal. So I know you're thinking, right, Dr. Newman, you said that last time, but what I want to know is, what does that even mean? Well, let's start with the idea of curriculum. I looked up the etymology of the word curriculum, which has Latin origins and means a race or the course of a race. So in turn, the curriculum is a race in its entirety, or the whole course. Instructional design focuses on the course level, so it focuses on the entire race. For your design document project, you will only fully develop one piece of the course. However, the course or content map you create, like the one here, will be your plan for the entire course as if you were going to develop it all. So the course, if it's the entire race, would include everything it takes to meet your main goal for instruction. In this video, I'm going to explain how to map out your course of your instructional goal and the role of the objectives and methods in meeting that goal. We're going to use this course, EdTech 5753, as an example, and hopefully by breaking it down, all of this, in the context of this course, it'll make a little more sense. But before we go any further, I want to quickly talk about learning objectives and break down the difference between a terminal and an enabling objective. You can also find this breakdown in job aid number 3, Objectives, which is in the week 2 content folder. So let's talk about learning objectives first. A learning objective is a statement that indicates what the learner will be able to do as a result of the learning experience. Now, learning objectives go by a variety of names, such as instructional objectives or learning outcomes. Whatever name you choose to use, it's important to write a well-written and clearly defined objective because they'll be the guide for the instructional activities and assessments that you eventually design. There are two main types of objectives that we will talk about in this class: terminal objectives and enabling objectives. So let's start with terminal objectives. Terminal objectives are also called instructional goals, so just keep that in mind as we move throughout this course. Terminal objectives state in measurable terms the overall learning outcome learners should be able to achieve. So terminal objectives generally include 3 parts: the condition, the tasks, and the standard. So the conditions are the conditions in which the learner will perform the task. The task is, what the learner will do and how the learner will demonstrate the knowledge, skill, or attitude. And finally, the standard is the standard in which the learner must perform the task. So let's look at an example of a terminal objective for this course. By the end of this course, learners will be able to design a course of instruction to address an instructional problem in a specific context. So here are the conditions in which the learner will perform the tasks. They are by the end of the course, which is EdTech 5753. What the learner will do is design a course of instruction to address an instructional problem in a specific context. And finally, the standard in which they will perform the tasks for this instance is simply that they will be able to. Now, some designers may decide to be more specific with their measure of a standard here. So they might include a specific score if it's a type of assessment, or they might include the word successfully. But as you can see, the terminal objective is essentially the overall instructional goal, which is why some people call it an instructional goal for your entire course. It's like that top dog objective. So once you have your terminal objective or instructional goal, it's time to figure out how to get your learners to achieve that goal. So this is the whole point of your task or function analysis, to determine the steps that learners will need to take to achieve that terminal objective or instructional goal. So each of your steps will be supported by an enabling objective, which is an objective that supports the terminal objective by breaking the terminal objective down into smaller, more manageable objectives. So enabling objectives address an aspect of the terminal objective and explain the expectations of the learner's performance. So as you can see, you have your top dog terminal objective, and it's supported by each of your enabling objectives, which are also kind of like those steps. So if you're getting confused with steps and enabling objectives, don't. We're going to go through an example that'll help you connect them, because they're essentially the same thing. So this is that course example again. So we're going to talk about first the steps that are involved in meeting our course terminal objective, and then the enabling objectives associated with the steps that we've broken down. So as you remember, the terminal objective is learners will be able to design a course of instruction to address an instructional problem in a specific context. The steps associated with meeting that terminal objective are conducting a needs analysis, creating a course map, designing objectives, designing methods, developing materials, and developing an evaluation plan. I'm just realizing now that my course map that I developed forgot the implementation plan. Originally, I had a different idea of what we would do for the implementation step, but since it's such a short semester, I decided to do a plan instead of actually having you implement your course somewhere. So we're going to pretend that it's, that shouldn't be there, but just know in our actual course there should be an implementation step listed here. So my apologies for forgetting that. I'm just realizing that right now. So as we transfer these 6 steps that we have here into the course map, they become kind of abbreviated version of these steps that will later be written out into full enabling objectives. So, each of these steps is essentially one of those enabling objectives, and we're going to talk about writing full-length enabling objectives in the week 3 video, because you're going to be working on that in IDA number 3. So don't worry about it right now. It can just be abbreviated like I have them here. So as you can see at the very top, of this course map here, so this is the full-length course map. At the very top, you have your top dog terminal objective. And then if we go one level down, you're going to have your major steps or your enabling objectives that help you or help your learners really achieve that terminal objective. So if I were to run this, EdTech 5753 race, these are the things that I would experience in the course in its entirety. So I'm sure you're wondering right now what the next levels underneath the enabling objectives are. So below each of these yellow enabling objectives are the sub-steps or tasks that need to be completed in order for learners to meet the enabling objectives. So these are really important to map out early on in the process, because seeing the course as a series of objectives and seeing each objective as a series of smaller steps is really important in allowing us to choose the appropriate instructional strategies, media, and assessments. So I'm sure you're wondering, where are these sub-steps coming from? Well, go back to your task or function analysis. This is really going to help you build in each of the sub-steps for each of your enabling objectives. So based on, your task or function analysis, you as the instructional designer are going to have to decide what are the most important parts that will help my learners achieve the enabling objectives and eventually the overall terminal objective. So, what I'm sure you're thinking, what about those assessments? You can see that they've been indicated here, right? There's color coding throughout this entire map, and there's also different shapes to indicate each different aspect of the course's design. So which one do you think are the assessments? That's right, it's the orange scripts. So those are the assessments. So through this course map, you're essentially trying to communicate the terminal objectives, your enabling objectives, and the associated sub-steps, including the assessments. So in the course that we have mapped out here, there are actually 6 different units. So A unit or a lesson is like what I've circled here. It's essentially one of those enabling objectives and the steps and assessments that are associated with meeting that enabling objective. So each of those different enabling objectives is a unit or, a lesson. So a course map. Your structure is essentially going to look like this. You're going to have your top dog terminal objective at the top. One level down, you'll have your enabling objective. And then, below each of these enabling objectives here, it'll be like the course map that we previously looked at. So you'll have your sub-steps and then your assessment as well. Including different colors and shapes is kind of a good idea. It'll be helpful for you and for me as, we're looking for the alignment that you have between each element. And we're going to talk about alignment more during week 3. So don't worry too much about that, but I think, including different shapes and colors will help keep you organized for, future purposes. So, if we're talking again about this course level focus, what does it really mean? So it means that we're focusing on these enabling objectives that lead up to or help the learners achieve that terminal objective or main goal of instruction. So we create them during our analysis of the learner and the tasks involved, and then assessments are eventually created for each of those enabling objectives. So for the course map that you create in IDA number 2, I want you to fully write out your terminal objective, and you can just abbreviate your enabling objectives like the one in the example map. And then you'll create your sub-steps and assessment. So don't worry about being right or correct right now. There's lots of ways to design a course. I'll provide you feedback to help you improve your course design, and I always encourage you to work with a buddy in class to get feedback on your work. I used Google Drawing to make my map, but you could totally use a variety of other programs such as Word or even PowerPoint. Do whatever works best for you. All right, so here's your week 2 checklist. Please read the MRK textbook, chapters 5 through 8 and chapter 13. Review job aid number 3, which is in the week 3 content folder. View the Starbucks training experiment video. It's about 8 minutes. It's also in the content folder. There's an optional reading located in the, I just skipped one. Review the learning theory infographic. I'll have a little bit more to talk about related to that in week 3, but I wanted you to kind of have a look at it right now. So there is one optional reading, which is in the supplemental readings folder. Again, not required, it's just optional. And then your activities this week are your initial manic discussion post, which is due Wednesday by 11:59 p.m. Your response is due Sunday by 11:59 p.m. Additionally, IDA number 2 is due on Sunday by 11:59 p.m. So if you have any questions or concerns, just let me know. Thanks and have a great day.